2013. And thank you so much for making it here in the very first session. Ladies and gentlemen, just to give you a gist about this festival, the Times of India Literary Carnival 2013, this wonderful event that seeks to get Mumbai's all the passions into just one literary space. As you can see, we've chosen people who are just about the cerebral people. It's the authors, it's the musicians, it's the directors, the producers, and filmmakers, as you can see. All of them are very much an integral part of this year's Times of India Literary Carnival 2013. This year's theme, if you don't know, and if many of you know, is violence, love, and romance. What better can it become? And as you know, there's this one wall that features from the last 3 years in this one lit fest that we have. The last 3 years has seen this one wall which features every aspect of the theme. And this year, considering the fact that it's romance, love, and violence, we have all this rare stills from Bollywood and probably the most magical moments that we have ever seen on screen up there on the wall outside. And not to speak much about the Times of India, because I don't think words would fit in the bracket if I start defining the Times of India. Over 175 years and over 4.5 million circulation. This is just magnificent. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to the Times of India Literary Carnival. Going on to the first session that we have for the day, it's going to be the writer's blog. So everyone in this room who really wants to write, this is the best session that you're attending. This session is going to feature 4 very important people. First of all, it's going to be Mr. Vikas Swaroop, and I'd go on with the introduction for everyone. Mr. Vikas Swaroop is an Indian diplomat who's served in Turkey, the United States, and Great Britain. Q&A, his first novel, is being translated into 18 languages and is due to be made into a film. Vikas Swaroop currently works in the Ministry of External Affairs in New Delhi. So can we have a big round of applause for Mr. Vikas Swaroop? Sir, could you kindly come up on stage? Thank you. Moving on to our second personality for this session, it's going to be Mr. Shovan Chaudhary. And to talk about him, Mr. Shovan Chaudhary is a Delhi-based amateur humorist. His blog, India Update, has horrified over 2 lakh people. And that's like one of the best introductions that we ever hear. He's also the creator of Trilokpuri Incident, one that nobody can actually remember. But he's done this investigation. Ladies and gentlemen, he took him around 11 years to complete his novel, The Competent Authority. In his spare time, he does advertising work for clients who probably cannot afford the budgets that they're looking for, and probably who wants to do it in a cheaper rates. He's the person that they approach. Ladies and gentlemen, a good soul deserves a big round of applause. Can we give it up for Mr. Shovan Chaudhary? Welcome on the show, sir. The next one, Mr. Akhil Sharma. He is the author of upcoming novel Family Life. His previous novel, An Obedient Father, won the Penn Hemingway Prize, as was serialized in The New Yorkers. Mr. Sharma lives in New York City with his wife and is here with us at the Times Literary Carnival. Yet again deserves a big round of applause for Mr. Akhil Sharma. And finally, to take you through the entire session, we have the moderator for this session, and she's going to be Sonora Jha. She's the author of Foreign, published by Random House India in 2013. Sonora was born in India, where she had a successful career as a journalist in Mumbai and Bangalore. Her last assignment was a chief of Metro Bureau and special correspondent for the Times of India before moving to Singapore and then the United States, where she earned a PhD in political communication. She is now a professor of journalism at the Seattle University. Her novel, Foreign, is literary fiction based on true stories of farmer suicides in Vidarbha. Ladies and gentlemen, with a big round of applause, welcome the moderator for the show, Sonora Jha. And now, may I please request Sonora to take through the entire session. We have a long session waiting for all the people down there who love to write. Thank you so much. We see you in some time. Thank you.
Are these all for us?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yes, you can. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. I'm sure you're all interested in the craft of writing as much as you are in all these celebrity authors that we have with us this morning. The session is called Writer's Block, but I thought that that's a terrible thing to begin with. So I want to really begin with a more positive tone before we get blocked. And so I want to start with just asking all three of our wonderful authors here. Natalie Goldberg has said, write what you fear, right? Write what you don't want to write, what makes you uncomfortable. And I wonder how that plays out for you. What do you write about? Why write? Do you want to start, Akhil?
Very few things scare me. I think I've been writing for a long time, and so I'm so used to being shameless that very few things intimidate me in terms of writing. I imagine that many of you wish to write or are curious about writing, and I think that what helps in terms of writing is trying to write about things that you care about. So it isn't so much a matter of writing things that you know, but writing things that matter to you is how I would think of it.
I'll come back to that later because I feel that there's a theme for all of you, the things that really matter. So I want to get back to that a bit. Because you want to go next.
Well, I think I would agree with Akhil. He has been writing for a long time. I am a professional.
Reflection is being clear. I won't even go into what makes me feel YouTube because that's very hard to make funny actually.
Thank you. So as you all can see, they have very different forms, very different styles, and that's really what I want to get to next, the form, right? What you're attracted to, what your writing personality is. So Shobhan, as you can see, is a political satirist. He believes in satire and wit, and Vikas' novels are unputdownable because they have strong plots and they have riveting sort of plot. And Akhil's work is literary, and the characters and the worlds that you go into are just fascinating. So my next question really is about what draws you to these forms? Is it because of the writers that you read? Is it because of who you are? Is it because you think that the market wants this? What draws you to these forms? Should we start with you?
Well, when I was a kid, I was obnoxious pest, and I tried to make people laugh all the time. And sometimes it got and we had very big classrooms of like 70, 80 kids there, so it was a pretty large audience. And the adulation of that audience sort of set me on a particular path, which is stuck with just trying to make people laugh. So it works about 10% of the time. You have to hide the balance 90%. That's pretty much it. Well, growing up, I grew up really on a diet of Western books, mainly thriller and mysteries. And of course I read other stuff as well. I read Albert Camus and Franz Kafka, but what really got me going was a really devilish mystery by Agatha Christie, or a thriller by Frederick Forsyth or Alistair MacLean and things like that. So when I decided to become a writer myself, I said let's do a thriller genre. But then I checked out the bookshelf and I found that not a single Indian thriller writer existed as far as the West was concerned, at least. Nobody had really done a good thriller. So I said, let me first find out, what do Indian writers do? Because till that point, all my reading had been about, growing up it was Hindi literature, Premchand, Ubaid Nakash, Harivansh Rai Bachchan, those kind of things. I had not read Indian writers in English as such actually. So that's when I said, let me first do my research and find out what do Indian writers in English have written about. So that's when I read B.S. Naipaul, Arundhati Roy, Pankaj Mishra, Rajkamal Jha, Manju Suri. I read all their works, and I came to two conclusions. I said, not one of them has written a thriller, and all of them have written about society. It's a book about social customs, mores, really span generational sagas stretching from 1860 to 1970 kind of a thing. So I said, so I have to do something similar. But again, I could not let go of the fascination with the whodunit, the thriller genre, that I want the reader to find out what happens next. So I combined the two and I created my own genre, which I call social thrillers. So they offer you a peek into society, but in a thrilling, page-turning kind of way.
grew up reading rubbish. I grew up reading science fiction and fantasy novels, and I also grew up reading a lot, largely because I was unhappy and lonely. And at some point, I began reading literary fiction, and I suddenly thought, oh, this is real life. This is what it means to be sad, to be alone. And I felt that by trying to capture human beings in their complicated way, one, I could soothe myself because I could take what I was experiencing and contain it. And then two, I could offer it to others. Like unhappiness shared is unhappiness had. And so for me, that was the motivation. I find if I'm not reading something about a person that I can believe in, I think, why am I reading? What is at stake here? Why would it matter to me? That's why.
Well, I have a few specific questions for each of you, and I think what I would like is that if the others want to come in on that and respond to those two, that would be wonderful. So the first one for you, Vikas. As a writer, I was thinking of this the other day, that with the success of Q&A, right? Some of us have to write new books before people even know who we are and want to buy our books. With the success of Q&A and Slumdog Millionaire and people rushing out and then having the second wave of buying your book, how do you write the next one? I mean, what does your inner critic say that, are you going to fail with the next one? Is this going to be as big enough? So how do you write the next one? What is the process, the thought process?
No, you're right. I mean, as the dreaded second book syndrome is, of course, something which every writer, I suppose, has faced. And when your first book has become huge, it has been translated into 44 languages, which was a huge movie called Slumdog Millionaire, which almost has become a global brand in a way. So
and yes, we do want to update that figure. It's 44. I think they mentioned it was a lower number, but by now it's 44.
So, my publishers, my editor was also dropping hints after the success of the first one that why don't you do another book, based on the same characters? After all, readers have related to these characters. Ram Mohan Thomas was the hero in my novel and his best friend was Salim. So why don't you write another novel based on the same characters in which we trace the life history of Ram Mohan Thomas, let's say from the age of 18 to the age of 25. And they even suggested the title, said we call it Another Q&A. So I said, look, I don't want to be a Spider-Man franchise That's not something that interests me. And for me, so actually the pressure was there, and in order to get rid of the pressure, I just asked myself, I said, what did you do in Q&A that appealed to me? I mean, what was the secret? I mean, I won't say that it's a great novel, the best written novel in the world, or whatever. But what was it that I asked myself? I said, what did you do? And I came to the conclusion, I said, I told a story. So I asked myself, I said, do you have other stories to tell, or is this the only story? And at that point, I was, sort of looking at 6 different plot lines, 6 different stories. So I wrote my second book called 6 Suspects, which, sort of had these 6 different characters. One Bollywood actress, one politician, one bureaucrat, one mobile phone thief, one Andaman tribal islander who comes to mainland India. And I wrote a book about, their perception of India and how it all comes together. So for me, I think that was the way of dealing with writer's block or the second book syndrome, just to tell a story in the best way that I can tell it.
So, thank you. That's very inspiring. Shobhan, your works, the political satire, and you have other things that you do with the Facebook, the Trinopoli incident, that's one thing, and then your blog. And I'm fascinated, as a writer who's, is it better to pick a genre, or is it something that you feel like, you get a wider audience with that, or is it just something that you're compelled to do? So can you speak a little bit about these different forms and why you enjoy doing that, and what engages you in that?
Well, I guess a blog is a way of quick gratification without having to beg and plead with anyone to sort of publish it for you or go through that process, which is like painful for more or less everyone involved. You just sort of do it and it's out there. So that's a big thrill. And nowadays with technology, what happens is you feel like a genius because you just post it and it looks awesome and it's up there. And after that, 3 people like it and it's like, it's brilliant. doing that, you definitely should. And I think it makes you more social. I mean, you know when you're blogging that you've got to be nice to other people. Because that's the human, I mean, it's like I've written this brilliant stuff and nobody's coming and reading it. The thing is, you've got to be human, right? I mean, human beings sort of need to interact with each other. So yeah, that helps because you like 10 people's stuff, they like yours, and it's nice. You meet a lot of stuff. That's as much a social thing as a writing thing, really. It's a way of sort of getting in touch with people and sort of staying in touch and doing that stuff. Facebook for the Trilopuri incident was different because 1984 is something that a lot of kids, I mean our own kids, for example, and their friends, I was talking to them one evening and I realized none of them knew what had happened. They had no clue, and that's a bit disturbing. So it felt like something that people needed to be reminded about, right? And Facebook is the ideal medium for that because posts keep going out, so the ping, it keeps sort of reminding you in a sequential kind of way.
For those that may not be aware of the Trilopuri incident, can you speak?
Oh, sure, no, there's nothing. I mean, it's called the Trilopuri incident. It's on Facebook. When I was researching it and reading about stuff on 1984, one of the reasons none of us does any of that is because it's so horrible. You don't want to know about it, and so you end up not knowing about it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I felt like I was going mad actually as I was reading it, and then something went ping in my head, which is that maybe that's the way to deal with it, and that's how Toba Tetsing worked out. Manto had this great insight that sometimes only a lunatic can deal with what's going on. So it's kind of a research report. It's a researcher who's been recently released from an insane asylum, and for reasons that are gradually getting revealed, he's roaming around Tirupuri. Trying to figure out that 600 people seem to have disappeared over a 3-day period, and nobody seems to have been responsible for it. And he's investigating what happened to them, and who did it, and so on and so forth. And he's averse to the internet and other forms of research. He wants to find out from actual human beings. So it's a series of posts, or it's a series of sort of reports from there, which are sometimes, I'm afraid to say, funny. So that's how that is. That's the Trilopuri.
And I'm wondering what the other two panelists feel about that, because I feel I would love to continue, writing these different forms, but I feel like for me it gets very distracting, and I'm trying to maintain these different forms of writing. So it's really admirable. And Zadie Smith has said something about writing is like 5% your work and 95% switching off the internet, right? Because it really can be distracting. So